Folks, one of the darkest and questionable things about the entire Epstein debacle has been the missing surveillance footage from the jail where he, let's say, checked out. There was supposed to be footage. They released footage. There was a little bit of the footage missing. Just so happened maybe that was the exact bit of the footage that we wanted to see. And it's been months now where there's been back and forth. Where's the missing footage? Is there a missing minute of footage? I don't know. It doesn't matter. That minute doesn't matter. The cameras weren't working anyway. Well, now people are actually claiming that through the Epstein files, through basically digging deep into the URLs that the Department of Justice have released as part of the Epstein Transparency Act, people on Reddit are now claiming that they have found the missing minute. It's crazy. Okay. Now, in some ways, this isn't necessarily the biggest news. It's not necessarily going to show you the Navy SEAL sneaking into the cell and checking Epstein into a long stay into a faraway hotel. But what it is going to do is basically just expose kind of a lot more irregularities in the story. Okay, and I'm going to read you this post. I'm going to show you a bunch of links that I've got and basically explain to you the whole backstory of the missing footage. But I want to start here. So this is a post that was up 2 days ago on r/Epstein. This guy says, I found the missing minute. It shows someone getting up and going towards Epstein's cell. It says Pam Bondi said every night should have the same minute missing. But they're saying there's no minute missing here. All right. Right at the end, 11:58:58 to 12 is visible. All right. And it says at 11:59 to 40 to 11:59:45, it seems that this clearly shows someone getting up and walking towards Epstein's cell. People are saying, edit, thank you to several people who have reached out for me to stay safe. Doubly thank you for the people who have reached out with threats. If video games have taught me anything, it's that when you run into enemies, you're going into the right direction, okay? And people are going crazy in the comments are saying, what is this? If this is authentic, it could represent the most significant cover-up ever related to the Epstein case, ranking among the top 10. I didn't know it was a top 10. People saying, I found this directly in the Epstein files. The URL is a direct link. But this is an aspect that a lot of people haven't realized, right? It says it's in raw format. It was a PDF file, excuse the pun. A lot of people have realized that there's PDF files, excuse the pun, in the Epstein files that they're blank, they're loading up these links and there's nothing there. And some genius has realized that if you change .pdf to .mp4 on certain files, it comes up as a video. So that's what he's done here. This would have said PDF originally. Okay, now it says MP4. I'm scared to even click on this, to be honest with you guys. But let's do it. Okay, and he said 11:58 to 59 is what's missing from the original footage. Okay, so let's just see it. So 11:59 to 58. Can we zoom into this? So where would that be? 11. So here it comes, right? It's 11:58:50. So these would have been the stairs over here that lead up to Epstein's cell. And this apparently is the part that was missing from the original video, okay? This is the section. So I guess we're going to keep our eye on this section over here. Is there any movement? Does anything go down for the next minute? This is apparently the missing minute. I guess there's a tiny bit of movement. I can't really see exactly what it is that's going on over there. There seems to be... I'm locked in. We got to look closely. I can see something moving, but it's faint. It's hard to really understand exactly what it is. We're at 11:59:30. See, I don't know if that's artifacts where the bad data compression is just making it look like something's moving. Like the whole screen seems like it's juttering a little bit. There's someone's moving. Someone's walking. They're walking towards the stairs where Jeffrey Epstein's cell was apparently located. But it doesn't look like, I mean, it's unclear if he walked past, he or she, whoever, I don't know, figure. It's unclear if they walked past, they walked up the stairs. I mean, so they said at 11:59 to 40, it seems to clearly show someone getting up and walking towards the cell. That's what it says. So that's apparently the missing minute. I don't know if that's a smoking gun. I don't know if I'm in big trouble. Okay. This is there. All right. People are saying, there it is. Screen record it before it's deleted. I thought they said the guards were sleeping. Oh, I just read more of the comments and this was apparently released and talked about earlier. Now, that's what I want to break down. I want to break down to you the whole history of this clip. Okay. It said it was covered on BBC. They're editing to add the link from last year. So what I want to do is let's start off with a few more links. All right. This one is basically from the Reddit post and they say Pam Bondi said every night should have that same minute missing. And people are saying that didn't quite add up.
CBS News has learned the so-called missing minute from the night Jeffrey Epstein died may not be missing at all. Earlier this month, the Justice Department released nearly 11 hours of surveillance video.
Right, so you see what happened there? I just showed you the missing minute, okay? Hope I'm not in trouble. But this is 11:58 to 55, and then it jumps to 12.
At all. Earlier this month, the Justice Department released nearly 11 hours of surveillance video from the jail where Epstein committed suicide in 2019. However, the time code at the bottom left corner of the video jumps from just before 11:59 to midnight. At the time, Attorney General Pam Bondi blamed it on outdated technology.
And what we learned from Bureau of Prisons was every night, they redo that video. It's old, from like 1999. So every night the video is reset, and every night should have the same minute missing.
CBS News Justice reporter Jake Rosen.
Right. Okay. That didn't go down well. Okay. So it is the missing minute. Okay. We got the right time, the right date. All right, it is the missing minute. So, something I wanted to bring up that I saw in the files recently already, okay, is basically there was one file that I see in the Epstein files, and it was a really interesting piece of paperwork that essentially suggested, right? So this was the report that had been filed to declare that one of the cameras, which I believe should have been a much better view of the area where Epstein was housed. Now, interestingly enough, they filed this motion, or they filed this paperwork to let them know, it's a memorandum in the Federal Bureau of Prisons. It's a memorandum to let them know that the recording camera went kaput on August the 8th, 2019. But this was filed August the 10th, 2019, perhaps in a hurry after Epstein's body was being removed from the facility, okay? So filed on August the 10th, 2019, but they're saying, I noticed this on August 8th, 2019 at approximately 3:45 p.m. while reviewing the NICE camera system. Not so nice, it wasn't working. I attempted to recover video footage from the Unit 5's South Housing Unit, the SHU. At this time, I was unable to recover any previous recordings from this camera, prompting me to review all of the cameras. None of the cameras on the system were able to record there. For I called communication technician via radio at approximately 4 p.m., responding to the third floor phone monitoring room to check the cameras and notified me the cameras were not recording and there was no way to retrieve the video. Blank stated he fixed the camera system on Friday, the August 9th, 2019, when he arrived at work. Not sure that happened. So it's been alleged, okay, I don't necessarily agree or believe this to be happening, all right? I'm just giving you info that other people are putting out there. This is from the Epstein Files subreddit, right? And they're saying, is this FBI post evidence that the cell footage that would have shown a much better view of Epstein's cell, was that deleted on purpose? Okay, I'll read you this. It says, on March 12th, 2020, blank, date of birth blank, telephone number blank, was interviewed by Assistant USA Attorney blank, Task Force Officer Detective blank, and Special Agent blank at the United States Attorney's Office, Southern District of New York. During the interview, blank provided the following details. Blank started working for the Bureau of Prisons in 2003, worked in both New York and Indiana. Blank had some college education, was with the United States Marine Corps for 4 years and had 10 years experience in electronics. In 2016, blank was put in charge of all of the cameras at the Metropolitan Correctional Center, MCC. Blank advised that the cameras at MCC were out of date, the recorders frequently went bad, and that the cameras were all analog and not maintained properly. The camera system was over 20 years old. Sometimes the screen would be active, indicating that the camera was working. However, the video would not be recording. Blank advised that only one hard drive of the camera system was working at the time of the incident on August the 10th, 2019. When a DVR went bad, none of the cameras recorded. There was a system failure of the DVR July 29th, 2019, and the motherboard failed on the DVR 2 on August the 8th, 2019. And then the hard drive failure occurred on August the 10th, 2019. It's so unlucky. Blank recalled that there was a body alarm around 6 a.m. on August the 10th, 2019, and he was one of the MCC personnel who responded. Blank stated that he was one of the personnel who briefly tried to resuscitate Jeffrey Epstein. After the incident, Blank was asked about the cameras. There were 2 new hard drives to install, but installing the new hard drives would mean that all prior data would be lost. The warden wanted video, and so Blank was told to start working on the DVR system. Wait a minute. There was a body alarm around 6 a.m. After the incident, Blank was asked about the cameras. There were 2 new hard drives to install, but installing the new drives would delete all the data lost. But the warden wanted video. So Blank was told to start working on the system. Blank started removing the bad hard drives in order to rebuild the DVR. Blank advised that an FBI agent was the one who pulled out the DVR. Blank also advised that he knew that by replacing both hard drives, the system would be wiped, and he had advised personnel at MCC of that. I'm scared. I'm new here, so I'm unsure whether this has been discussed, but it suggests the FBI was complicit in wiping the cell footage. No, I don't know if that... It could be just complete rank ignorance, failure, chain of command, but I feel like, forget the FBI, like in the lead up, just naturally, this was just a perfect storm. Everything just stopped working in the lead up to this. That was just so unlucky, right? Suggest the MP... does this not sound like a really bad cover story? Why would removing the HDD from a DVR remove what was on it? It says they didn't have much choice here. The guards were stupid, lazy, corrupt as F. The hard drive had been messed up since the 8th of August, so they took it as evidence and more than likely had someone with really good data recovery fix it. If I'm honest, how crazy would it be if we found out they gave us a different night, saying that it was the night he died on? I've already seen the mismatched statements of death. Okay. A little bit sus. So, apparently, okay, there was actually a pattern of missing evidence, and all of this kind of began when the FBI actually received the surveillance footage of what was Epstein's first attempt at self-deletion, which we heard about. I spoke about it in a previous video. It sounded like maybe someone tried to take him out. He was talking about he had some cellmate that went crazy and heard about his crimes, and then he didn't want to tell on him, but then it was classified as an S attempt, perhaps because he didn't want to snitch. But apparently, the surveillance footage of that was also a problem. So check this out.
Video of the cell exterior where Epstein first tried to end his life was sent to federal investigators and restored last week. But on Thursday, prosecutors said it's the wrong video. In a letter, federal prosecutors said the jail inadvertently preserved video from the wrong tier at the jail. And as a result, video from outside the defendant's cell no longer exists.
It no longer exists. Shit. Damn. Inadvertently preserved videos from the wrong tier. Ah, man, just like the one tier we wanted. We was looking at the other tier. And it no longer exists.
CBS News legal analyst Ricky Kleeman.
When I read this letter, I had to reread it because I said, this just can't be happening. This is madness.
Nicholas Tartaglione was Epstein's cellmate at the Metropolitan Correctional Center for the weeks between Epstein's July arrest and his first suicide attempt. Bruce Barquette is Tartaglione's attorney.
It is the worst facility, jail or prison, that I've been to in 35 years of practice.
Well, anyway, all right. I think it would be interesting to dig into his cellmate, another day. And I think I'm going to make a note. Dig into his cellmates. Pause. Big pause. But yeah, look. It's just like, I like how things always go missing when it comes to corruption or cover-ups. Like, every time I owe the government money, how comes that never goes missing? Just like my Christmas lights, they did not hang themselves there. All right. Yeah. Crazy. Okay. I am in shock still. So what's interesting, okay, we actually have a witness account from one of the prisoners on what happened that day. And this is going to be interesting. So look, no footage. All right. It's gone forever. All we've got is this explanation of what actually went down that day. Okay. It says, Federico Rancia Medrano was interviewed at the U.S. Attorney's Office, Southern District of New York. Special agents and various big bodies were basically there for the interview. All right. And Medrano's attorney, Ernest Hammer, after being advised of the identity of the interviewing investigators and nature of the interview, he provided the following information. He was in the shoe, all right? From July 16th to July 26th, his cellmate was Jacinta Garcia. For the entire time period, he recalled that there was a CO working who was referred to as Blank that worked the morning shift at MCC and would remember faces of the other officers, not necessarily names. Medrano stated that Monday, Wednesday, and Friday were shower days for the inmates in the shoe. These days were the only days that the officers would pay attention to the inmates. All other time, inmates would have to yell to get something from the officers. The officers would do counts of the inmates when they wanted to, not regular counts like Medrano knew from previous experiences of being jail. And according to Medrano, there were 96 inmates in the shoe and 48 cells. Before the indictment happened, before the incident happened, Medrano didn't remember the overnight checks of inmates actually being conducted by officers in the SHU. Medrano refers to the incident as when a guy, whose name Medrano could not recall but he knew him from being in the news, tried to himself. After the incident, Medrano recalled the checks being done at 12 a.m., 3 a.m., and 5 a.m. He remembered the checks because he would be awoken by officers doing the checks. Medrano stated that other inmates would yell things at the guy and that officers would said things about him, making fun of him. For example, the officers would say that he could buy his freedom. What? Medrano recalled that the guy would always be with his lawyers, and this would hold up other inmates from seeing their attorneys. Medrano also recalled the guy's cellmate used to be a police officer. The incident happened around 1:20 a.m. to 1:30 a.m. There had been no inmate check at midnight. Medrano was reading a book when he heard a commotion. The guy's cellmate was screaming and banging the cell door to get the SHU officer's attention. Medrano could only see the guy's cell door and could not see in the cell. It took Officer Blank about 5 minutes to get to the guy's cell, but then Officer Blank turned back around to go and get the key to the cell. Officer Blank came back with a lieutenant and 2 other officers. Medrano described the lieutenant as a middle-aged, white complexion, and the other officers as black, 6'3", about 260, 270 pounds. The officers opened the cell door and paid attention to the guy's bunkie first. They handcuffed the bunkie and put him inside the shower area. Then Medrano heard a big thump like something hit the floor. He could see the guy's hands stretched out and then saw the officers pull the guy out of the cell face down. The guy, only wearing underwear, looked dead due to his skin having a blue tone. The officers did not administer CPR. They were just looking at the guy and there was no doctor around. The officers put something that resembled a stretcher on the floor and dropped the guy, who was already cuffed, hard onto the stretcher face down. At this point, all the inmates started screaming and hitting doors. The officers then flipped the guy over, dropping him hard again on the stretcher that was on the floor. Officers and lieutenant then took the guy away. A while later, around 2:10 a.m. to 2:15, the officers and lieutenant returned and took the cellmate out of the cell again. They started to clean the cell. Medrano stated the lieutenant had a video camera with her, but had turned it in towards her leg to where the viewer of the camera would not be of that cell. Okay. Medrano stated that he saw 2 orange socks and an orange towel that were tied together taken out of the cell. Once the cell had been cleaned out, the lieutenant turned the video camera to where the view of the cell would be recorded. Medrano said that according to the guy's cellmate, the cellmate was sleeping when the guy tried to himself by himself from the ladder of the bed. The cellmate said that he thought the guy had died. Medrano didn't see the guy come back to the SHU before Medrano left on July 26th. He had heard the guy was put on S-Watch after the incident. Medrano stated that after the incident, things changed in the SHU. Officers started bringing books to inmates, and inmates didn't have to wait to make a phone call. The officers started doing more checks with flashlights. Medrano specifically remembered the officers doing the 12 a.m. and 5 a.m. inmate checks, and he would usually be asleep during the 3 a.m. check. Medrano was shown a picture of Officer Noel. Medrano said that she looked a little familiar, but was not there the night of the incident. Medrano was then shown a picture of Officer Thomas. Medrano stated Thomas worked in the SHU, but was not there of the night of the incident. So it just makes you wonder, like, people are coming in with cameras and, you know, we're not getting to the bottom of it. And then when you hear Epstein's account of it, it's a little okay. So that was the first attempt, all right? It was an attempt, not a body, unfortunately. But time would pass, and obviously we know that within a couple of weeks of this incident, Jeffrey Epstein would unfortunately be turned into gas. Okay, so that would be when surveillance from the night of his death itself would kind of begin to come into the conversation. And a lot of people wanted to have this surveillance footage, and eventually in mid-2025, okay, their surveillance of that night was eventually released, but the public immediately noticed that there was that missing minute, and this caused a lot of people to ask questions.
Video was released by the Department of Justice to prove that no one entered Epstein's cell before he was found dead, and that he really did take his own life. But it's only fueling more conspiracy theories. Look, the video jumps just before 11:59 to midnight. There's 1 full minute missing. Attorney General Pam Bondi tried to explain the missing minute.
Every night the video is reset.
So we already heard this, right? But basically this was a big mystery. Everyone was talking about it. Everyone was saying, what the hell is going on with this footage? Like, it's crazy. Okay, it's crazy. Saying an innocent man would want to show the list to prove he's innocent. Anyway, all right. So now we get to basically a witness account from a prisoner of the events that went down of the evening that Epstein actually did check out. Okay, just like I just played you the one, I read you out the one from the first attempt that wasn't successful. Okay, now we're going to hear what went down as far as the prisoners that described it in lieu of any useful surveillance footage, and see how this compares. So here's the breakdown of the document. It says, on September the 3rd, 2019, Johnny Contreras An inmate at the MDC was interviewed in the Southern District of New York. Various agents of sorts from various agencies were there. Okay, he was advised of his rights, and he was told it's a separate crime to lie to a federal agent. You better tell the truth. Please tell the truth. Okay. After being advised of the identity of the investigators and the nature of interview, he said, let me talk. I'm going to tell you the following. He said he'd been at the MCC in the SHU L tier since August the 2nd, 2019. His cell is the first cell on the left, and he is able to see all of the cells on the right side in the L tier. Contreras can also see G and H tier, along with the middle portion of the multipurpose room in the SHU from his cell. Contreras usually goes to sleep around 11 p.m. or 12 a.m. If he gets to sleep during the day, he will then go to bed around 3 a.m. Contreras stated that he is always up for breakfast, which is around 6:10 a.m. Contreras will sometimes wake up when the count is conducted because he can hear the keys. On the morning that Jeffrey Epstein was found unresponsive in his cell, Contreras said that he saw a guard who he described as a black male on the shorter side height-wise and had close-cut hair knock on Epstein's cell door. The guard looked into the cell and then entered the cell. When the guard opened the door, Contreras could only see Epstein's legs from the knee down, but he could tell he was laying down on his back because his feet were pointed upwards. Contreras could only see this portion of Epstein because Epstein always slept on the floor to the right side of the cell. The guard bent down to shake Epstein and was saying, Epstein, Epstein. The guard then tried to pick Epstein up from behind, with his arms wrapped around him. Both the guard and Epstein fell back to the floor, with Epstein falling to the side of the guard. Contreras stated that once the two fell, he could then see Epstein. The guard then started giving Epstein chest compressions and mouth-to-mouth. At this point, the guard said, fuck, and asked the female guard who was standing near the L-tier gate if she had pressed the button. The female guard said, yeah, a long time ago. Fuck indeed. All right. A lieutenant then came in who is also a male nurse. And also a male nurse who tried to revive Epstein. However, Epstein was not responsive because, according to Contreras, he was already dead. Contreras said that Epstein looked dead when he fell with the guard after the guard tried to pick him up. Contreras said that the personnel were having trouble getting Epstein onto the stretcher because Epstein was basically dead weight. Facts. When they did get him onto the stretcher, Epstein still had on headphones. Contreras stated that Epstein did not have any marks around his neck, and he didn't see a rope around Epstein's neck. At this point, Contreras woke up his cellmate, who then took a look at what was happening. Contreras' cellmate also made a comment that Epstein didn't himself because he didn't have the typical injuries. Contreras at some point saw a male coming out of Epstein's cell with a sheet that had a loop and a knot. After this, MCC personnel, to include Lieutenant Blank, started to cover up the windows to the cell on L tier. They also brought dividers to block views from his cells and the camera. The day before Epstein died, Epstein and his cellmates left at the same time that morning, and Epstein was with his lawyers all day, as usual. However, when he was brought back up to the SHU that night, the guards took him up to J tier before they brought him back to his cell. That night, a count was done a little before 12 a.m., but none were conducted after 12 a.m. Contreras didn't hear anyone say that counts weren't going to be done that night. Contreras didn't see anyone or hear anyone go into Epstein's cell the night before he was turned into runs. So, in spite of the fact that we're being told, look, we didn't have the good camera that we really wanted to have that would have shown a lot more of the cell. We just got this hallway camera and there's a missing minute from it, and that's normal. And then, whoops, okay, we found that minute and there's nothing to see here. Basically, it's just, it created more questions, okay, than gave answers. And now the YouTuber Dr. G did a deep dive into the whole surveillance logs, and he basically discovered that what should have been the case is that multiple cameras were indeed functioning and positioned at better angles than the footage that was ultimately shared. So listen to this.
Footage that was released months ago, the footage that was released from the night of Jeffrey Epstein's death, is all from this camera right here. The other footage that was released was from this camera over here. According to what's been reported, those are the only cameras on DVR1. So you may be asking, well, what is it that I just showed you? Well, that actually is from this camera right here. Now we're going to hop back to that footage. I'm going to show you a little bit more that's interesting about this footage. According to the diagram we just looked at, there are two functioning cameras. One's over here, one's in a hallway that we're going to look at in a second, but this is not one of them. This was specifically marked as one of the cameras that was not working. Now, for anybody that's getting confused about all of this DVR stuff, basically, when you have security cameras, they have to record somewhere. They're recorded to hard drives housed in big DVR systems. So you're going to have DVR1 with a whole bunch of hard drives that are apparently all fully functioning, and then you're going to have DVR2, another batch of hard drives that have different cameras attached to them, but those were not functioning. They were not recording. Now, according to the Inspector General's office, this footage right here was on DVR2, the one that was not recording, the one that was corrupt, the one that for a million reasons was not accessible. DVR1 was fully functioning. Now, what I think was that this actually was footage from DVR1, and I'll explain why that's significant. First of all, the reason that this footage at all is significant is the angle we're getting. If somebody went up to Jeffrey Epstein's tier the night that he was murdered, we would see it clear as day from this angle. There would be no disputing it. There would be no question about it. You would 100% be able to see if somebody went through that door over there, for example, and walked up to Jeffrey Epstein's tier. Now, no other angle will show you clearly what happened. This angle absolutely would. And that's why this footage is so significant, because this would clear up any question about whether or not anybody actually went up to where Jeffrey Epstein was housed the night of his death. Later on, we're going to look at an email.
So, shout out to Dr. G-Man, because his work on this has been great, and I do really enjoy reacting to his stuff. So he would basically, later on in this video, he would basically reveal, and this is the most watched part of this video naturally, okay? He would basically reveal, analyzing every single angle that was available, okay? Every single angle, every situation, every setup, in his opinion, mysteriously skipped at the exact moments that anything significant could have occurred during this evening. Listen to this.
After. So as you can see right now, it's at around 2300 hours. So this would be around 11 p.m. at night. And then all of a sudden, once we get to August 10th, it's going to skip to 1 a.m. Now, since that footage skipped, I figured let's skip ahead. Let's see what happens around the time that Jeffrey Epstein's body was found. But when we reach 2 a.m., it in fact skips to 9 a.m. So that chunk of time is missing as well.
Whole time it went down's missing. Whoops. Whoopsie daisy. It just fucked up just right then. Just that all those hours.
So any time that anything significant happened around Jeffrey Epstein, all of the footage from all of the other angles is entirely missing. Now, if you remember, on July 23rd, Jeffrey Epstein had been found with an injury. That was, as I said, around 1 a.m. on July 23rd. So I decided to look and see what footage they released for the month of July, and it turned out they released footage that went back to early July, the whole month, except the footage around the time that Jeffrey Epstein's injury was reported.
Oh. So last time this happened, it also wasn't recording.
No footage around that exists. It skips that huge chunk of time. So anything in and around things that were reported to have happened to Jeffrey Epstein are not included in any of this footage. The footage is essentially useless in that sense. But the one thing, as I said, that we discovered was in fact that we have footage from a different angle. Now, another thing I want you to think about is that July 29th is when apparently everything stopped working, when reportedly all of the cameras weren't working. Now, July 23rd, when he was first found with an injury, apparently all of the cameras should have been working then. So why they only released this footage and not footage from the tier, not footage that shows what was going on? Apparently everything was working just fine on July 23rd, and none of that footage is to be found anywhere. So
it was all working great until Epstein checked out, except that last time when he nearly checked out. It just whoops. Bruh, come on, man. Come on. Come on. Stop playing with me. Okay, stop playing with me. Look, that's everything that I've got on this topic. It is insane. It is crazy, scary, spooky, hilarious. At a certain point, you just got to be like, look, it is what it is. Like, bruh, like, whoever was in charge of making sure that no one saw what went down, okay, if so, bro, they did honestly, they did a hell of a job. Like, they killed it. They actually smashed it, because all the bits that we want, even that minute, it's like that minute that was missing is such a red herring, because it's like, oh, we found the minute, but it's not really good enough. The angle you want, completely gone. Last time he tried to do this, allegedly to himself, whoops, oopsie. It's crazy, okay? Let me know what you guys think down below. I've got a couple other Epstein topics that I want to cover. I did the little baby video before this, so go and check that out if you already haven't. I appreciate you guys tapping in, watching, and supporting what I am doing. Thank you so much. And just bear with me. I'm trying to get to the bottom of this. This one was one of the most crazy mind-bending ones that I could have possibly imagined. And also, if you are interested, there is a big rumor going around that Jeffrey Epstein ordered a bunch of barrels of, like, acid to the island, and I did a video about it, and it was against YouTube's guidelines. So I put it on my members only section. Go and check that out if you want to see that. If you don't, that's totally cool. I'm going to hit you with another video for free in a minute. So just want to say thank you for your support. And yeah, I don't want to do anything to piss off YouTube more, because I've definitely been in their bad books, especially on my main channel for the last couple of weeks. But anyway, I'll catch you guys in the next video. I appreciate you, and I'm